This is a conspiracy. That's what this is.
Just begging to course its way through your veins.
Let's just for a moment speculate, shall we?
You're into comic books, aren't you?
I'm a nerd.
But you do like comic books.
Comic books aren't just for sad nerds anymore.
Do you think we need one more?
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you think we need one more?
Objection, calls for speculation, move to strike.
This is a bad idea. This is a bad idea.
All right, we'll get one more.
Spec Tales, a comic book podcast with Jake and Jesus.
What's going on, spectators, and welcome to the final Spec Tales episode of 2023. No, do not fret and dry those tears, for Spec Tales will be back as soon as next year. We really hate to go, and it's not even our decision. The truth is, Jesus and I are both in such an awkward position. We're dedicated to Spec Tales, a fact you must already know. However, something has come up, and we really must break from the show. It's nothing for you to worry about, and it'll only be for a few weeks, just enough time to possibly save the lives of your favorite two hosting geeks. That's right, our souls are in danger, and that includes Jesus' beard, so we must take a break for a bit and come back next year. Yes, we're really being threatened, but we mustn't tell you any further. You see, there are two women in our lives who are threatening murder. Spending the holidays with our families is what's required of Jesus and me. We hope you understand and recommend you follow our lead. That's all I got. This rhyme can now come to an end. All that's left to do is pass the mic over to my good friend.
Wow. I'm rarely, the powers of the beard rarely leave me speechless. However, this is one of those times where it's just like, how can I top that, man? I can't top that. Such great rhymes, such great skill, such great will. And you messed up my rhyme. See, I was just about to do it. And see, guys, there goes Jake again. I was just about to at the very least match his rhyming skills, but he just had to intervene and not allow me to do that. But man, what a job! Great job, Jake.
Well, thank you. And I was just gonna say that I did it all off the cuff. That was all made up on the spot. Nothing was pre-written.
You don't write it down. You're not a writer. You're just like
nope.
You just go off the top of the head, and it just. Well, that just gives it. I'm gonna give that 5 tater tots, dude. I know we don't do intro tots, but this time that one deserved them. That one deserved them.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm like Little Dicky. I don't write anything down. It's all off the top of my head. Well, welcome to all spectators out there, and happy holidays to everybody. The intro, I know it said it, but we are coming to the end of the 2023 Spec Tales season. I guess last episode of this season. We are coming back next year, of course, and we will finish out season 3. So if you recall, or maybe you weren't around for it, maybe you weren't listening at the time, at the beginning of season 3, we said we were going to do 16 episodes on. We were going to take a break for the holidays, and we were going to come back in January, and we will do another 16 straight weeks. 32 total episodes for season 3, and we are still committed to doing that. What day are we coming back, Jesus?
So yes, the date that we are coming back, that we have decided that we pulled magically out of JJ's head, or actually that JJ whispered into both of our ears, is January 24th. So mark that date down, write it down with a Sharpie, permanent Sharpie. January 24th, we are making a comeback for the second half of season 3.
That's right. And something fun that we're going to be celebrating. Jesus, I said it earlier. Well, no, I didn't say the name of the number of the episode. So I made a mistake last week, and I said last week was episode 96, but the truth of the matter was last week was actually episode 98. I know, folks, I made a mistake. It happens. Get over it. We are in currently episode 98, which means when we come back in January, we will be celebrating our 100th episode. It will happen on January 31st.
Man, right before the Super Bowl, maybe we have a super episode. I don't know. I don't want to give too much away. Episode 100 is a huge benchmark. I mean, you've seen those comic books when they get to issue number 100. They have the huge 100 on it. They're super thick. They're super girthy. Everyone enjoys them. They have really cool stuff that they they pull out all the stops, in other words. So I'm really excited, man. Episode 100, when we get to it, because we will get to it, is a pretty cool benchmark for this, for just two guys who just like to talk about comic books. Also, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, man. It's about that time of the year. Hope you guys get all the Christmas comic book stuff you guys enjoy, you guys want. And reset yourself for next year, because next year promises to be a big, huge year in the comic book world.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody does at the beginning, this is, what you do at the end of the year. You tell everybody how much you appreciate them and you say thank you. And what you do at the beginning of every year is you set a bunch of really big goals for yourself to get done. I don't know that I got any of them done from this year, Jesus, although I did move, so that counts as a really big one. And I'm good with that. I think I'll count that as my accomplishment of the year.
Yeah, man, I think there's obviously we've said this multiple times. We kind of moved at the same time, which just, was funny. But yeah, at least for me, I can say that I didn't get my F15, but I did two things that I think I did that got me closer to the AF15. Is one, I stopped buying smaller Grails that I wanted, or smaller, key books that I wanted, that I still want. I want a Marvel Spotlight #5 Ghost Rider. There's been several chances where I could have gotten it when it dipped super low. I mean, I think like a 2.0 was around $200 or $250 at some point, and I told myself, no, I'm not going to do it, because, and that would have been just a placeholder, but I still would have had the book, right? Low grade is better than no grade. So I did that. I was able to be, I was able to restrain myself from doing that. And then two, I jumped on a ASM1,
yes,
which now it's looking like it's going to be a placeholder to move me forward into my AF15 journey. So I didn't get it. I didn't get what I wanted, but I got closer to it, right? Like I was able to get a little bit closer to it. So, and I moved. So yeah, that was my 2023 in a nutshell.
Nice. Well, spectators out there, listeners, what Grails did you get? Was there a Grail that you wanted and you achieved this year? I know some of you set at the beginning of every year, you set kind of like a Grail list, or books that, are on your list to get during the year. Did you get them all? If you did, tell us what they were. We'd like to know. In the meantime, maybe we should talk about what we're going to do in this episode, in this last episode of the season of the year. Not of the season. It's the first half of the season, right? We're doing the Walking Dead thing where we're going to do half seasons. But in this episode, we are going to do recent pickups and we're going to do speculation. But for the Grail Tales segment, we're going to do something a little bit more unique. Although, Jesus, I think we did something similar last year. We did kind of I think we called it the finishing move episode, where we really covered a few of our favorite books from the last year. So we're not going to tabulate every book, because Jesus and I can't read literally everything like some people do. It's really hard. So we're just going to tell you our favorite things that we read this year. And some of it may not be a surprise, because of course we usually talk about the stuff that we read. That's kind of how it goes. But I think it's still going to be a lot of fun to recap, and we're going to go over some of our favorite Grail tales from the year. And I think that's also a fun thing to talk about too. So, Jesus, why don't we kick this thing off with recent pickups?
Recent pickups.
That's right, the recent pickups segment, where we're going to talk about something we recently picked up or read. This is always a fun one. Jesus, you traditionally go first. You know how the game is played.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with start off and end with just one book. There's been a lot going on lately as far as me reading, and I've been reading some of the back stuff, but I wanted to highlight this book, and this is just because I started reading, and I've been reading Gods from Marvel, and I told you I've kind of had good thoughts about it, and not necessarily bad thoughts, but just, I guess, confusion in some instances. And it's by Jonathan Hickman.
Yep.
So I wanted to go back and read some other stuff that has been, I guess, referred to me or recommended to me of Hickman's, which is the book that I'm talking about today. My recent pickup and my recent read is East of West
Oh,
So I've
yeah.
read East of West. Did you get a chance to read that, Jake?
I haven't, but I know it's been recommended so many times.
Man, so let me just tell you, man, like I started reading it and like 3 pages in, I'm like, man, this is my jam. I can't believe I missed this. so
That's
so
the best.
and yeah, it's the best. But let me I guess to the other parts of it. So if you guys haven't read East of West, it's like a post-apocalyptic kind of deal. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, but one of them is missing. Death is roaming around in the world, and as a different version of himself, as basically a gunslinger, and he's just killing people, and he ends up
That's
killing.
cool.
Yeah, he ends up killing like a very important top leader of a world nation. But it's also like not like, what is it called, where it's like historic but not really historic, like it's an alternate history. I love alternate history stuff. So there's no White House, but it's the White Tower, right? Like you know what I mean, like that's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's what it plays into. And it's like the atom bomb or the nuclear bomb didn't go off in like the 1940s. It went off in 1908, so way earlier.
Yeah, way earlier.
So yeah,
we didn't have the technology then. That's not accurate.
Yeah, so there's like some alternate history going on there. Or did we, Jake? I don't know. But a couple of things that I wanted to say about it, like I'm really starting to enjoy his writing, and like his writing, it's a middle place between being real heady and also being real, like, punch you in the face, right? Like kind of,
yeah,
like just up front, and just it is what it is. The artwork on it, let me see. I forgot who the artist is on it, but let me double check real quick since I have it up. Oh, guess who the artist is on this?
Paul Dano.
Nick Dragotta.
Oh, Paul Dano is not an artist.
No. Well, he is an artist, but just a different kind of artist, right?
Yeah, fair point. But I just said, I don't know why. Paul Dano came to mind. Dragotta, man, is an actual comic artist. No wonder. And yeah. So, that sounds like
okay. And so I'm glad it was Nick Dragotta, because I forgot about. So Nick Dragotta, we've talked about him with Ghost Cage. Ghost Cage's art is just freaking awesome and phenomenal. Very anime, manga type on it. But in this case, it's so subtle. It's so subtle and it's so cool at the same time. Some of the characters and the way they're drawn versus the world, it's not like over the top. This is not going to be one of those things where it's like the artwork was like Ghost Cage. It's not Ghost Cage, right? The artwork matches the writing, and it's just basically working with it versus either overshadowing it, or you know what I mean. Like it's a very good I don't know how to, like, partnership, I guess, like where one picks up for the other one picks up for the other one, and back and forth they go. And it just makes it a very easy read, a very interesting read. Like you don't want to put it down.
Where are you reading this at, by the way? Did you get
I'm actually okay. No, so I did not get physicals on it. I want physicals of it. So a little rant, let me get on my soapbox. Comixology is dead, I guess, and it transitioned everything over to
Kindle,
Amazon, Kindle store, whatever. Horrible, man. Like, me and you have talked about this, where you can buy it on Comixology and then you can see it on the Kindle, or you can buy it on Amazon, then it goes to your Comixology.
Yeah, you got to go on a computer to buy it, basically.
Yeah. So
you can't just get it through the damn app. Yeah.
So you know how frustrated we were having those conversations, because I was reading the all-nighter, and I love the all-nighter. I wish I can go back to that. that's how bad it is right now. I wish I could go back to that. So I got it on Amazon, and somehow I went to my Kindle, but it was on the Comixology Amazon website. I don't know, whatever. East of West, the first trade, I read the whole first trade. It's really good. Thank you, whoever recommended it. I'm sorry that I'm not remembering who it was. I also know it was multiple people who did. But it also helps me not understand the gods from Marvel that he's doing, but it gives me a little bit more leash to put Jonathan Hickman on, at least for me and my like, which is interesting, right? Like East of West is I think is either IDW or Image Book, indie book, I think, and he's writing for one of the big two. So that's my recent pickup, East of West. I'm glad I picked it up. I'm glad whoever recommended it. I'm recommending it now. If you like alternate history stuff, if you like cool artwork, if you like some cool writing, pick it up, man. Pick it up. If you have a break during this holiday season, it'll be a good thing to sink your teeth into. So that's my recent pickup, East of West. Jonathan Hickman and Nick Dragotta. Go do it. Go read it.
I mean, you can't argue with that lineup of creators. That's for sure.
There you
it's
go.
fun and twisted. So I'm in. I guess I'm going to be reading more Hickman as well. Thank you for that. That's because it's a good recommendation, Jesus. I'm going to give you 3.5 tater tots. So,
okay, and with the new ratings that just came out for 2024, because I gave you the 5 for the intro, I'm looking at like 8.5, maybe 10 right now. So
I haven't seen the new. Standards.
Well, you should open. I know it's December and people don't open their emails, but maybe you should open your emails every once in a while.
I will, but I guess it's not. It doesn't come into play this year anyway.
Yeah, you're right. The Talk Academy said for next year.
Yeah, it's set for next season, of course, next year. My recent pickup that I'm going with was a gift that I received from a good friend of mine. This is the Adventure Zone, and it's a box set, and it has the first 3 books of the Adventure Zone. Now, Jesus,
those are good, dude.
I am a huge fan of the Adventure Zone podcast, and if you're into D&D, the Adventure Zone podcast is for you. Like, it's a lot of fun. It's the McElroy brothers with their dad, and they're just DMing, playing games. It's not always D&D, but the first arc is D&D, and that's what these books cover. They cover the first arc. Well, these are the first 3 books anyway. They are they're not even all the way through the first arc, and that first arc started in like 2014 or something like that. It's well worth going back, though. Seriously, go back to the very beginning. Start from there if you're not familiar, even if you're not into D&D. Even if you're
is this Jake? Is this Jake telling people to stop listening to our podcast and go to listen to another podcast again?
Only over the break. Only over the break. Okay.
Okay, that's fair.
You are not allowed. You are not allowed to do it before or after the break is completed. But in between, after you listen to this, you can go there until the break, until January 24th. Anyway, that should give you enough time to listen to all those episodes. There are a few of them. But so this box set, I'm extremely excited because I didn't own them. And they are being... It is a illustrated version of the show, but the cool part is, so the brothers and the dad, like most of the best part of the show, I mean, it is fun listening to them like go through the storylines because they do write some pretty incredible stories for them to go through. But I think what's more fun is the banter between the siblings and the dad, and how they unravel the story, and how the brothers are trying to get one up. So the one brother, Griffin, is the DM for the first arc, and the other brothers, it feels like they're always trying to one up him on trying, but he wins it. Like it just seems like he's always one step ahead of him. The banter is hilarious, but there's just a lot of really good stuff in it, and it's a fun story. I have not read the books. I haven't read the graphic novels for it, but it's interesting because it's kind of like when I heard the show, I'd never heard D&D done that way before, right? It was done in a fun and engaging way, and even if you don't know anything about D&D, you can listen and it's entertaining, the best way. But this, I've never seen a graphic novel done this way, because not only do they do the storyline that unfolds in the show, the DM is still a character in this book, right? The DM doesn't get left out, right? And the banter between the people playing isn't left out.
That's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna ask if it was just done straight, like the actual story, or if it's like, outside looking in of the story, including the players and their thought process and what they actually said during that time frame.
Yeah, it is. So it's a mixture of both, and they're trying to. They really wanted this to be kind of a true experience. You're going to. I mean, it can't be exactly, but you are going to experience D&D as it was played, where you're going to have Griffin, the DM. He's going to burst in. He's going to have his own little bubbles in it. I'm going to try and show Jesus.
Oh, I see.
So you can see him kind of breaking the fourth wall and talking to the characters in the screen or in the
That's
panel.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's so is it breaking the fourth wall? Like, or is there if Griffin is breaking the fourth wall as the DM talking to the characters within the story, who are we as the reader? Are we behind a fifth wall? Anyway, it boggles the mind. So this was
I think you just broke my mind right now.
Yeah, I know, my brain broke too. We'll have to talk to like Deadpool about it or something. But I received this box set as a tremendous gift from somebody who is a mutual admirer of the show, and I actually put them on the show, and they appreciated it so much that they got me the box set.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's cool. That's how I would feel like, the person who did East to West or recommended I'd get it for them or some special variant or something or whatever. Just because as a show of gratitude, you put me onto this. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you. I wouldn't have found it, or maybe I would have found it, but 10 years later and it wouldn't have had the same impact or whatever, So that's pretty cool, man. That's a really cool gift.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it, and that's why I wanted to kind of give a shout out. The individual does not want to be named specifically, though, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave that out.
But can you say their name and then you just beep it out?
Yeah, probably. Oh, here, their name is.
Perfect.
So, yeah, just really want to do a big shout out. Thanks very much. I really appreciate the gift.
Nice.
All right. Because it was a gift and because of the opening that I spent so much time coming up with off the cuff, I'm going to award myself 4 tater tots for this week.
Half of my 8.
Going out on a high note for sure. Taking the top victory with me to close out this year. But you know what? With these new rules, and I haven't read them yet, Jesus, but I got a good feeling about next year for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would have wanted the new rules, so it is what it is.
Is that how that works? All right.
Yeah.
Well, good for you. Let's roll into our next segment.
Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale. Grail Tale.
That's right, the Grail Tale segment. Normally, we would have ourselves a guest or a listener-submitted Grail Tale where somebody would regale us with a story about a collectible, something that they love, and the story behind it. In this particular case, Jesus and I, since it's the end of the year, we're going to do something slightly different. We're going to start by going over our 3 favorite reads, 3 favorite comics from 2023. This is not an end-all, be-all list, all right? This is just our personal list from the things that we have read, what we liked the best. And I think there's probably, I don't know if you're going to do any honorable mentions or not. Like I have a couple that they didn't quite make the top 3, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention them. And the thing is some of the things that I want to talk about weren't even written this year. Like they didn't release this year, but I just read them this year and I love them a lot. So we're going to start with that. And then we'll finish with going over our favorite Grail Tales from this year. But let's kick off with our favorite books from this year. Do you want to do one at a time?
Yeah, I'll do one and then you do one, and then you want to do honorable mentions at the end, or you want to do them first?
Let's start with the honorable mentions because I think that's fair.
Okay. Honorable mentions for me, I'm going to start with All Nighter from Chip Zdarsky.
Oh.
I mentioned that on recent pickups that I was kind of excited because I found this, a little late in the game, and then like the next volume came out like a week after I found it, so I was pretty excited about it. pretty interesting. So that's honorable mention. Another honorable mention is Transformers. Daniel Warren Johnson artwork, stories crazy. It's a little bit different. The only reason it's an honorable mention is it's just not enough out there for me to see where it's at for the year read. I think there's only two, maybe three issues out so far. So that's the only reason why it's honorable mention. And the last one that I have on here, which I know we're gonna, it's just a really good one. And again, it's only on here because just not enough out there. I haven't read issue 2, but Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees is on my honorable mentions.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I've only read issue 1, I haven't read issue 2. Such a cool and different take on comic books, man. And horror and serial killers and watercolor, and it's just so cool, and again, it's just another reason why I love comic books. So that's on my honorable mentions. If it had come out in the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, it might have been my top 3, but those are my honorable mentions.
Nice. All right. I've got a few that I'm going to go with for honorable mentions. Speaking of not enough to go off of, which is kind of interesting because I am definitely like, what is the phrase? A prisoner of the moment, captured by the moment. Like, there's definitely some of that for me on my list. But because there is only one of these, and it just I don't know enough about it where it's going just yet. I'm going with The Deviant is an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Honorable mention number 2. This one by one of our very, very, very favorite writers, W. Maxwell Prince, Swan Songs.
Yes.
This series was really, really good, and I wanted to put it in my top 3, but ultimately, I think what kept it out was simply because it's a little depressing. I like, right? Like, it's about the ending. Like, it's bittersweet in so many ways.
The ending of things, yeah.
Yeah, the ending of things. Swan Songs. And I think it's so poignant and really smart. That's the thing. Maxwell Prince Will always does the smartest writing. And it was worth honorable mention. It's definitely I guess I would say an acquired taste as far as writing goes, but that's all of his work. And if it's your bag, it is your bag. So those are going to be, and you know what? The last honorable mention I will also say is Transformers, because it didn't quite make the list. Do a Powerbomb definitely made my list last year.
Yep.
I knew where that, like, I don't even think it finished last year, right? Like, it finished.
No, it finished
in 2023.
January. Yeah.
It finished this year, but it didn't matter. We had seen enough. It was on the list for 2022. In this particular case, loving Transformers, really, really liking that book and what they're building there with the Voidverse or whatever it's called. Not Void. I don't know what it's called.
The Energon.
Yeah, the Energon universe.
Yeah.
Really liking it. So that's my third and final runner-ups. No, not runner-ups. What are we calling it?
Honorable mentions.
Yeah, close calls.
Good,
All
man.
right.
So good.
What do you got?
So I'll start with my number 3. We'll go 3, 2, 1. So I'll do 3, you do 3, 2, 2, 2, 1.
Sounds fair.
All right. So my third is, speaking of the Energon universe, I'm putting Void Rivals as my number 3 for this year by Robert Kirkman. Transformers didn't get on there because it only has 2 issues. Void Rivals has 6 issues, which it was interesting that they chose to kick off the Transformers, the Energon, the G.I. Joe universe all mixed in together with Void Rivals, which is completely new characters, completely new, setting, universe from that aspect. And it's done very well and it's very interesting, and it's just compelling for me, right? Like, I just want to keep reading it. I just want to keep seeing what's going on with it, how it intertwines with Transformers, which you got Transformers kind of at the beginning, and then that's it. That's all you got from it. And then that was it. Like, there hasn't been anything since then. So I'm just really enjoying it. I think it's coming together for him for Robert Kirkman as far as the vision he has with the Transformers and G.I. Joe. A lot of buzz around it. But Void Rivals, man, I'm really enjoying it. So it's my third best comic this year. And there's been a lot, guys. You guys know I read a lot. Again, it might be something different to other people or what have you. You might not like it, but I'm just enjoying it. I'm enjoying the characters, the artwork. And it's just, I'm just curious about it. So it's my top three for 2023.
All right. I'm going to give you a curveball for my number 3. And I don't know if it counts. You know what? It counts because I guess we make our own rules anyway. So I'm going to go out and say that my third favorite thing that I read this year was the Hellboy Omnibus #1. And I get it. It wasn't published this year. These books date all the way back to the 90s. So it's not really within 2023. But, and I'll get, you know what? And I will call it cheating, call it whatever you want. I don't care. I'll give you an actual number 3 that was published this year if you really want one. But the thing is, if I'm really telling you in this year, the best thing I read, one of the best things I read, that Hellboy Omnibus was one of the best decisions I ever made. Because I'm seriously going to read through all of them now. I am enjoying the characters. But now I'm not just getting into the Hellboy universe that, Hellboy, I'm going to keep reading, but the BPRD, which is its own universe where Hellboy sometimes makes an appearance, but he's not in every issue. That is another series where I've actually been told by people they like that series even better than Hellboy, but it's all Mignola. It's all in that world, and I dig it because it's dark. It's a little bit horror, but also action, and it's very much my jam. I'm enjoying it. But if you're telling me, Jake, that wasn't published in 2023, you got to pick something published in 2023, Jake, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the individual that really pushed me over the edge and recommended I read it because he was using it as a basis for his work, and that is Philip Kennedy Johnson's The Hulk. If I'm not allowed to do Hellboy, I'm going to do The Hulk because it really has brought me back to Marvel in a way. Not all of Marvel. I can't get that far, but I am reading it. It is on my pull list for a monthly basis, and it's the first Marvel movie to last beyond book 2 in a long time. And it's really enjoyable. What's that?
Yeah. I said that's crazy, right? It's crazy that you haven't read Marvel in that long and that this book is doing that for you. Because, I mean, it kind of did the same for me. That's why I'm enjoying it as well.
I'm still reading it. The last book is amazing. Ghost Rider. If you didn't read it, go read it. It's awesome. And the artwork is great. And the imagery coming from, in this case, Hellboy is evident, but it's not a copycat, right? You can just tell that they're pulling the feelings, the emotions out of the artwork. It's wonderful. So if I'm not allowed to say Hellboy, which is truly one of the best things I've read this year, I am certainly going to say the current Philip Kennedy Johnson run of The Hulk is in my top.
Nice. It's a good one, man. It's a good one to have up top 3. All right, man. So for my number 2 this year, I talked about this at the beginning of the year. I was enjoying it. I did enjoy it the whole time. I even enjoyed the variant covers. It was kind of off season for it, but at the same time, I don't know when. Maybe that's the best season to have some of this. And I'm talking, and it's an indie book, so I'm talking none other than Where Monsters Lie from Kyle Starks. And that book, man, so, I mean, I even bought the trade of it. I was looking for some variants. I found some variants in the wild that I wanted. And it's just so crazy because it didn't have a ton of variants, right? It didn't have a lot of them.
Yep.
But because I enjoyed the story so much, it made me want to get the variants because I just wanted to collect the whole thing. Like whatever was part of that, series I wanted. And just for a quick recap on what the series is about is there is a basically like a kind of like almost like a gated community of serial killers and there's different types of serial killers, right? So you have like your they call them the shape, right, which is like a Michael Myers or a Jason Voorhees. Then there's somebody that's like a puzzle guy that gives people puzzles, or just different kinds of like types of serial killers, and they're led by this one serial killer family, which is like a little old lady that's a serial killer.
It's always the little old ladies, by the way. Terrifying.
Yeah, it's the one that the ones that you don't even know about, and then like what? And they end up killing like 200 people or something. And what they do is they don't kill in their neighborhood or their area because that's their safe spot. And they try, and what they do is they plan out different serial killer sprees for each of the residents at different parts of the country at different times. Obviously, it doesn't like when you fall in, all hell breaks loose. People find out about them, and you find out that there's different types of serial killers, and they end up fighting each other. Like you can't have two shapes close to each other. Basically, like there's rules among serial killers, right? And it was just really cool premise, really different, really interesting. It has Kyle Starks's like trademark humor in it, which there's a lot of humor in it, which is kind of funny. Some really good characters in there, some really new characters, new and interesting stuff. So I really enjoyed it. What I meant is like the horror slasher, it's not really that season for it. It's usually right like September, October, beginning of November, I guess that you would want to. But maybe it is right where you want it in the off season because you're wanting to feel that again of the previous season or the upcoming season. And it was just so interesting, so different. The artwork was good. The variant covers were cool. Hunting them was cool for me. And it was just an experience for me to enjoy this series from Kyle Starks, which that was my second real series that I really enjoyed from him. The first one was I Hate This Place.
Yeah.
And so it's just continuing to build. I'm sure he's gonna have more. I think he got a big 2 book recently. I don't forgot which one. So congratulations to him. But I'm just gonna keep following his career because I enjoy his writing. So that's my number 2 book for this year that came out this year. I didn't cheat. I didn't say, so The Dark Knight, 1988, was such a great book that, I didn't do all that. I didn't do all that, guys.
Got to get the jab in. And I was just about to tell you that I actually recently picked up the first 3 books in that series, Where Monsters Lie. Yeah, based on your recommendation. I actually just recently grabbed it. I haven't read them yet. They're sitting over on the shelf behind me, but I'm not going to say that anymore, and I'm going to edit this out so nobody hears that I took that recommendation. All right. Now, I mentioned earlier that I am slightly a prisoner of the moment, and I really do respect your, hey, we got to see where it goes, right? Good start. Got to see where it goes. Not for me, Jesus. I am going to go ahead and tell you that after book 1, I am committed to this series, or whatever we're calling it. This is a miniseries. I don't know what they're calling it, but it needs no introduction outside of the fact that we're on a recording and nobody can actually see the book I'm holding in my hand. It is Christian Ward's Batman City of Madness.
Oh, nice.
I fell in love with it right when I read it. I know that we recommended it very highly on this show. It is the magazine size, which I know people have problems with, but I'm telling you, there's a theme when it comes to a lot of the books that I like and a lot of the books I've been reading lately. And that is to say that the art and the book is written and illustrated by one individual, right? Like
a singular vision.
Yeah, I know that. And there are certainly, obviously, Maxwell Prince and Martin Morazzo on things like Ice Cream Man really, I really enjoy. There's plenty of duos out there that I really, really like following. So it's not to say that it always has to be a singular vision like this, writer-director kind of guy. But in this particular case, Christian Ward's art and the style and the writing, like everything flows so well in this. It is just from front cover to back cover, it's astonishing. And the moment I read it, I was like, holy shit, this is the best thing I've read this year. And that's what I thought when I read it. And now it's number 2 on the list, Jesus. What could be number 1? Anyway, Christian Ward's Batman City of Madness, book 1 is all we've got so far. And it doesn't matter. It's incredible. It's on the list. And I won't be taking it off no matter what you say.
Yeah, man. I mean, I hope people know that Christian Ward is one of my favorite artists. I've talked about his art, his cover art, his Proctor Valley Road art that I really enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah, if he had more, he'd probably be higher up there. I'm a big Batman fan. And his doesn't disappoint. And like you said, the Singular Vision kind of stuff is really cool to see, play out. He's had this story in his head for a while, and I'm glad he's getting a chance to do it. So good choice, man. Good choice on number 2 for you. All right. So without further ado, my number 1 pick for this year, I don't think is necessarily out of left field, but it's actually something I've talked about significantly. It also could be recency bias. But again, I'm just enjoying it. It's also an indie book. It's The Sacrificers by Rick Remender, and art by Max. I don't know how to say his last name, and I hate because I butcher it. Fuimara, I think.
That sounds right. Or I mean, it sounds like phonetically right. I don't know if it is actually correct.
Max Fuimara. Fiumara. So if I'm butchering it, man, I apologize. I'm sorry. The book is just really good. Slow burn, like I've been mentioning. It just gives you just enough for you to keep on wanting to read it. There's also multiple storylines going on through it. The artwork is crazy. The covers are crazy. The colors on it are crazy. And I just really enjoy the book. Now, I will add a caveat to this. Jake. I don't know if you like caveats or footnotes. I can add a footnote if you like instead of a caveat.
Can we add caviar? I've never actually had caviar. Isn't it good?
It's salty. You're not going to like it. Just don't do it. But here's a caveat. And I won't say much more than this. But this entire series has been drawn traditionally. And I'll leave it at that.
Drawn traditionally. What does that even mean?
That means it's not digital. That means it's on paper. That means it's getting scanned in, Jake.
What the hell does that mean?
You're saying you want a piece of me?
Very nice. All right. You might have thought that you were trying to scare people away with that caviar there, but it didn't scare anybody away at all. I will take it. Now, Jesus, we're coming down to my number 1. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no other way to put it. This is, if there were the last book I liked this much was called Ultra Mega. That's the last time I read something that I liked that much.
That's high praise, man. That whenever I said something reminding me of Ultra Mega, you stopped everything. You told everybody to turn off the TV. You said if you're standing up, sit down. Like if you're writing something, just put the pencil down or pen. So if you're saying Ultra Mega, if you're breathing those words out into this podcast,
I am. Genuinely, I think I believe I said something along the lines of put grandma to bed. We've got something serious to talk about. The last time you brought it up, and that's what I'm saying right now.
And I just like to remind you that I just saw Godzilla -1. So
oh my god, I still really need to see that. But wow, there's
go ahead,
no place or time. So this series did something this year that nobody else did. It did something this year that is even in comics, I think is genuinely hard, unique, and difficult to do. And that is shock everybody. Blow everybody's minds. Shock the world. Show them something that looks so natural. Like, how did nobody think of this? How did we go How long has the Earth been around? 2023 years.
Yeah, how
Is the
come no
Earth
dinosaurs wrote this? Is what I want to know.
How is it that the dinosaurs didn't come up with this idea? This should have been top 5 first things that they came up with. It shocked me in such a good way where like it could have. I know there are two issues out now and they're all wonderful. It's incredible. It's great. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I am of course talking about Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. This book is amazing. Once again, written and illustrated by one person, Patrick Horvath, and that I could have only had one issue, and I could have told you this was the best thing that I read this year because it is. And I know maybe it's not for everybody. It's a little different, and that's the best part. I genuinely think this book takes everybody who sees it, just you have to stand, but you got to be go, oh, hold on a minute. What's this? I'm sorry, what? You're like, why are my favorite animated characters from my childhood butchering and murdering? Why am I seeing seeing a duck butchered to the craziest degree of detail? Anyway, so it's not a surprise. I recommended it the first time I read it. I told everybody, you have to love it. You have to love it. And I do. But realistically, I have not been this head over heels over a visual story. I like a lot of stuff. I really liked Animal Castle last year.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, this is above. This is not above Ultra Mega, but it's right below it. And that's a hard.
It's on the mountain. It's on the Rushmore right now.
It's
right
so
now, right?
good. I am enamored with it. So it is. I'm a prisoner of this moment, and this moment I am king.
That's exactly what I was trying to capture earlier with Where Monsters Lie. It's so cool at the time when you're reading it and how it captures you and it captivates you. And I will say, you mentioned, about the single, artist, and the writer being one, which is really unique and interesting and difficult and different. I think we started with the Cliff Chiang. We started talking about that and the Catwoman Lonely City, which was also great. But then also just when somebody is able to do something that hasn't been done yet in comic books, and just thinking back real quick, we're coming up on what I would like to say 100 years of making comics, right? Like the 1938 to 1955 is considered the golden age of comic books, right? So we're what? I don't know, 15 years away. So we're 85 years into making comic books, traditional comic books. And when somebody is really able to capture something new and different, now granted, you still had to go through making those kid books from the 80s and 70s and 60s or whatever, but still to capture something new and unique and different that hasn't been made, it's really cool. And again, I put him on honorable mention. I haven't read issue 2. You've read issue 2. I haven't read issue 2. If there was more out there, I'd probably put it on my top 3. Which sucks because just the timing, I don't know if I'll be able to put this on next year's top because 2 of them came out in 2023 and the rest are going to come out in 2024. But it is so unique. It's so different. You're right. It's probably not for everybody. They probably won't have the same effect that it had on us, I guess. But it's still, if you're a fan of comic books, it's definitely something you should read just because it's so different and unique and new. So that, I don't know, in the future, somebody else builds off of it, you can say, oh, I see where they're building from, And
I'm interested to see, I know that there's only, I think, 6 issues for Beneath the Trees.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to know what happens. I mean, is it going to be successful enough to get more? Is it going to be something where we see a spinoff or we see other people want to get in on the IP? I don't know. It depends on how many books it sells, probably. If somebody else is going to believe in it enough to make more. But that's kind of how things go. So I'm very excited. I am very happy with the 3 that I have, and as I said at the beginning, this is not the end all be all of lists. Jesus and I are not listicle makers. We are
Yeah.
just going to tell you our favorite books that we read this year, and I think it's a pretty good reflection of the type of show that we have. We do have a little bit of Marvel and DC here, I guess, but for the most part, we're indie readers, and we're going to go where the good stories are. These are the ones that we like. Hopefully you guys like them too.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like there's other stuff like what Jake had with Hellboy and stuff like that I've read that I hadn't read up until this year. That East of West is probably going to be up there for me.
Yeah.
There's a couple other ones that I didn't talk about that are older. But this is just this year, and like Jake said, we do read a lot, but we're also not like, I mean, I'm not a professional for the most part. I can just tell you what I like, and that kind of, skews towards horror, thriller, cool artwork, stuff like that, and so that's why those are our list. Sacrificers, has some elements in it, of that kind of stuff that kind of shocks you, So yeah, I mean, I would say we lean towards indie because they have more free reign to do cool stuff than the big 2 do currently.
So far, it does seem like they're going in that direction, or they're trying, right? Like we do see different things with DC's Black Label and Hulk, of course, pulling us in with a darker storyline. So there's stuff going on. But Jesus, let's move over real quick, I guess, to our favorite Grail Tales of the year. This is the Grail Tales segment. So I think in the fashion, do you mind if I go first? I've got one that
Go
that
ahead.
really hit me really hard this year, and I'm going to go first on it. It is going to be from the episode was on October 11th. I don't know the exact episode like number. I don't know. We don't really post numbers. Numbers get confusing sometimes with this episode. But it was the dueling listener submitted Grail Tale episode where we had a guest host, Mario Candelaria, which was a lot of fun to do it with Mario and bring him in on an episode, trying something different. It was fun. But specifically, Eric, who is Secret Shodan Comics on Instagram, he relayed a story to us about getting New Mutants 98 and how the story really, the reason I wanted to list this one, well, one, the listeners submitted Grail Tales, they really usually are my favorite. I always love those. But in this particular instance, we talked about it at that time as well. It sort of hits you in the feels because Jesus, you and I are both fathers. We both have those connections with our kids, and that's where Eric really tugged on your heartstrings because his son was just excited to hold the New Mutants 98. Like his son was just excited to hold it in his hands and to come home like, I can't believe we held it. And then later for him to get the book, it's one of those memories, one of those core memories, right? That you'll never forget. So I that one's got to be my favorite one of the year. I really do appreciate Eric sending that in, and Eric is a regular listener. He jumps in every once in a while and messages us on Instagram, and we really appreciate Eric. But regardless of even if I didn't know Eric, that story really hit me in the feels. So I got to give it props.
Yeah, man, and that's part of the reason why this whole thing with comic books this year for me is getting to hear those kind of stories of how comic books and certain grails or certain books impact people and families, right? Like I'm blazing a trail for my little family over here, and my kids are reading Blue Beetle. My 9-year-olds are reading Blue Beetle, which is kind of crazy to me, and they're enjoying it. My older son is reading Blue Beetle as well, and he's also reading some Miles books. So it's just interesting, man, and it's really cool, and I'm glad, and thank you, Eric, for sharing that with us, because we get to share with everybody else, and it's forever, immortalized there, and we can always go back and listen to it. But it's just so cool, man. That's a good one that you picked out. Good job, man.
Thank you, sir. What do you got?
I'm gonna take a little bit of a different turn, but kind of similar, right? Like at my core, I'm a collector, right? And I'll share a couple. I collect Jordans, I collect comic books, um, I collect. I like to say I collect like muscle cars or vintage cars. I have more than a few, which I'm lucky to have, and just held on to them, and now they're classics, Um, and this weekend I'm hoping to get a really cool set of Jordans that kind of marries my love of comics and Jordans at the same time. So I'm a collector at heart, right? A collector. And so hearing Newbie, a friend of ours, at the beginning of the year, talk about his, Grail and finally getting the Grail, and it's so difficult to get a Grail like that, right? The first appearance of Iron Man. I've kind of, saw a little light at the end of the tunnel for me. I was close enough to the story, like I was able to touch the story because it's Newbie, that I felt that in myself that maybe I'm going to get to this point at some point down the line with my AF-15, and basically just showing me that it's possible because Newbie kind of does what we do, but to a different effect as far as using the hobby to pay for itself, right? Like he sold some of his books. Like I think he sold a Giant Size X-Men or something.
Giant Size X-Men and a Hulk 181.
And a Hulk 181 to be able to get his Grail. Now those are big books in themselves, but his Grail is the first Iron Man. So it was really, and it was a great way to start out the year. Like I mentioned, it was in February. That's when I was reading, Where Monsters Lie.
February 22nd is the episode. That was the return of Newbie Comics and the most suspenseful Grail tale.
Yeah, so it wasn't this season necessarily, but it was this year. And it was just really cool, man. Really, really hit home for me. Like, you can do this, man. You can do this. And it kind of gave me the push I needed to kind of start making moves to get my A15. And it's not going to be easy, man. I've given you, and we're going to talk about it on a floppies, my plan for the A15 and how it's starting to come together. But yeah, that's going to be mine. And again, that's just one. I mean, there's a couple others too. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about it, but that's just my one for this year that I was really kind of excited and happy about, to see another fellow collector, friend of ours, able to get his, real, like, true Grail that he's been hunting for a long time.
Yeah, I really like that story as well. And I know we give Newbie a lot of crap on this show, but that's just because we're good friends with them and we chat with them a lot off air kind of. And it was really cool to actually see him get to that mountaintop. And the interesting thing is I think we're probably overdue to ask him what comes after the mountaintop, because we haven't circled back with him about it. And I think that'd be a fun, like, floppies episode to get him on, just be like, dude, after you get your Grail, what do you do? After you get that
it's interesting. It's interesting because almost immediately after we saw him sell the second appearance, right, of Iron Man. Like,
oh yeah.
he's like, I don't need this one anymore.
We'll have to. We should circle back with him, but I think those are both great. And we had a lot of really good Grail tales and episodes, and the listener submitted one by Eric that I did. It wasn't the only great listener submitted Grail tale that we had. We're always looking for more, and we would love to hear anybody's Grail tales that they haven't submitted yet. And if you want to submit one, please reach out to us, either Instagram or email. We're very accessible.
Man, so please, like, this 6 weeks, please, if you know of a good story, or if you have a good story of Grail, please send it to us. We want to get some more in for the second half of the season. We had such good ones the first half of the season that we really want to get some more in. And again, you're giving it to us, but we're also giving you something back. What are we giving them back, Jake, if they give us a Grail tale?
We're going to give them a poster. You want a Spec Tales poster? They're actually really cool. They look really good on the wall. It's actual artwork. We got artwork from Elliot Comic Art. He does all of our tater tots, and we did a really, really cool creepy creepy number 1 homage poster. And hey, Jesus and I even signed them. I don't know why, but we did. we signed the damn things when we got together, and we still have some of those left. And if you want a Spec Tales poster that is actually cool enough artwork to hang on your wall, all you got to do is give us a Grail Tale. So please don't hesitate. Reach out to us over the next few weeks, and we will make sure that we get you a poster in return. But I guess that's going to do it for the Grail Tale segment, Jesus. It was a nice way to cap off the year, but we cannot go out without giving these listeners some speculation.
Speculation.
The speculation segment. And this is one where we're going to talk about a comic book or collectible that we feel like is maybe undervalued, or something that you might want to pick up and maybe flip at a later date because the value is going to go up or something like that. Anyway, Jesus, what do you got for speculation this week?
All right, man. So as I've been trying to use some of these books that I have to help the hobby pay for itself, I've been looking through some of my older boxes, finding some gems, finding some crazy stuff in there that I didn't even know was, had some value to it that I do care about, but I don't care about as much as I care about an A15. And maybe some other people would like to either enjoy reading it or enjoy it as their, part of their collection. So looking through those, I found some really cool books that have some value to them from Dark Horse in the mid 90s. And the one that I'm talking about specifically, and this isn't one that I'm saying that you should spec on necessarily. If you can find them, by all means get them for a decent price. But I'm saying it started turning the wheels. So the ones that I found are Alien versus Predator versus the Terminator. They're actually from the year 2000. Pretty cool covers. It's a 4-issue miniseries. Together, if you have the 4 books, they sell for anywhere between $125 and over $200, depending on the grades. And like I mentioned to Jake, with my luck, unfortunately, mine are in very low grade, so I don't think I'll get too much out of them. But it started turning the wheels on Terminator, and Terminator is a 90s, action hero, or 80s and 90s action hero franchise, right? You had Arnold Schwarzenegger, who started off as a bad guy, turned into the good guy as far as like they reprogram him, whatever. And they keep, coming out with new cool Terminators, which is really cool, right? Like the T2, and then some of the newer ones have even more crazy features or upgrades that are make them even more dangerous and more deadly and more scary, right?
Yep.
And some of the Terminator books are in comics are so affordable, man. So first appearance of the Terminator in a comic book is from 1988. It's a Terminator number 1. The name of the publisher who published it is called Now Comics, which I don't think they're defunct now. I mean, you can find this book for, $5, $10. It's not a high value book right now. And we did have something back in 2021 during the boom that said that Netflix had optioned Terminator for an animated series, which would be really cool, right? So there's so many different ones. First appearance of John Connor, which is in number 12 of that series. Then another cool one, which is nothing to do with Terminator except that it's a cover for it. But the first cover art by Alex Ross is in a Terminator book called Terminator: The Burning Earth number 1 from 1990. Really cool. First appearance of Sarah Connor, Terminator 2 Judgment Day number 1 from Marvel. This is when Marvel took over in 1991, the adaptation of the movie. Then Terminator vs. RoboCop, and then even I was telling you, Jake, before we started recording, that as late as 2019, there was a Transformers versus Terminator crossover,
which is, cool, but like Hasbro just turning on the yes button and just whatever, go for it.
15 variants on there, so you can tell this is like, I don't want to say it's a money grab, but
it's a cash
when you
grab.
have 15 variants out there, and I'm not saying that this is like a potential to cross over now with the new Robert Kirkman led Energon universe, but I mean, 2019 is not that far off, and it's a possibility. So, yeah, any Terminator books that you can probably catch, maybe first appearances of certain characters, 90s nostalgia, late 80s, 90s nostalgia, I think has some legs in the near future.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I can promise all the listeners out there, Jesus and I did not plan this, but I've got some 80s, 90s action hero speculation to talk about as well.
Oh, nice.
Now, mine also coincides with the holiday season, the Christmas season.
Oh, yeah.
So there is a very, very specific Christmas movie that had me wondering, I wonder if there's a comic book to go along with this for a first appearance. And that is, Jesus, that's the only thing that made me think of this, by the way. That's the only thing. Nothing else. There's
Nothing
no
else.
there's no ancillary thing that would
hidden
make you
agendas
think
here.
of. Yeah, no hidden agendas at all. Nothing you should look into as a listener at all. I'm, of course, talking about the first appearance and origin of John McClane. You may know John McClane as the leading character in the Die Hard series. So we all know the first Die Hard movie, I think, was 1989, something along those lines.
Yep.
Either way, I know it was an 80s action movie. It is like a perfect action movie, by the way. There is nothing wrong with it. You can watch it beginning to end, over and over and over. It's wonderful. I watch it every year for the holidays because it is a Christmas movie. That's not debatable. But the thing is here's the thing. Boom Studios in 2009 released Die Hard Year One, Number One, which is the first appearance and origin of John McClane. That's the first time it took from 1989 to 2009 for John McClane to appear in a comic book. That's incredible, right? And this is a book you can find for like $5. You can find it in dollar bins. I gotta say, artwork looks pretty cool. It looks interesting. This is one that I just because of how cheap it is, I might add it to the collection.
Oh, dude, look at the 1 in 25 is so dope.
I gotta look at the variants.
Look at it.
Dude, yippee-ki-yay, and then it cuts off Mother, as you know.
Mother Taters, obviously, right?
Yeah, Mother Taters, of course. Yeah, dude, gotta get me that one. That one's a little pricier. But still, hell of a cover. And yeah, Boom Studios doing it right. It's a good book. I think it's a worthwhile book to have in the collection. There's a lot going on with regards to obviously the Die Hard series is kind of begging to be restarted, begging to be moved into something else. I don't know. Does it become a TV series? What do they do with it? It's certainly a franchise that has been sleeping for a little while. Now, we're not going to get another Bruce Willis one. I mean, he's retired from acting, and we're not going to see another Bruce Willis Die Hard, but I could see them resurrect the character or resurrect the Die Hard storyline somewhere.
Yeah, man. I think man, it's just there's so many franchises that are not synergizing, I guess is the word, with comic books how they should, right? Like Die Hard is definitely one of them. Die Hard did try to do something with his son, I remember at one point, right? And it kind of didn't work out. So, Bruce Willis was kind of like maintaining that franchise, but if you have the right talented people to relaunch it or take it in a different direction, just look at Prey for a Predator series. It can be done. But at the same time, I mean, you're looking at like people love that franchise, man. I mean, we're still talking about number one in the holiday, movie.
It's a watch every year.
Yeah.
Movie.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there's so much more there, so much more story to be told through a medium that you can't tell and is a lot more, like, it's less risky than a huge blockbuster with a huge name on it. I mean, look at Mission Impossible, what they did, right? As far as like turning that into a huge franchise, the Fast series, turning it into a franchise, all those can do well in a comic book format. And I'm not gonna look them up. Maybe they do have comic books, maybe they don't. I don't know. But there's just so much more story. Like the Alien versus Predator stuff, man.
Yep.
They caught on pretty early. Like there's so many different routes you can take these characters, and people like me, man. When Prometheus came out, I started searching for different stuff. Like, man, this is cool. I want more backstory. I want to know more about the engineers or whatever. It's the same thing. Where does John McClane come from? Where's he going? What other missions was he on? Like, what gave
John
him that
McClane
experience?
is like Indiana Jones, right? You just got to start putting him in the right storylines. And it doesn't always have to be, at the top of the Nakatomi Tower. Although they should bring back something like that. That'd be cool.
Or maybe do it all during holidays, right?
It should always be a holiday film.
Thanksgiving. Right? What happened Thanksgiving, right? Like something has to happen Thanksgiving, Yep. New Year's. It's always towards the end of the year for him.
Happy New Year's, Mother Taters. Yeah. With that sign off, I'm going to say that's going to come to a conclusion of the speculation segment and this episode of Spec Tales. We do want to say one last time before we go out, thank you to everybody out there for listening and joining us during the 2023 season. We really had a lot of fun. I know we moved and we took a little bit of the summer off. We are really trying to get back on a pretty set schedule and to keep you guys in the know about what that schedule is. So you can rely on us to be back January 24th. We're taking 6 weeks off. We will be back and you will get another 16 weeks of Spec Tales. And if anything were to go wrong in between now and then, we'll, of course, let everybody know. But that's the plan.
Or if you can't wait that long, just hear me out. You're getting at least 1 floppies, if not 2, for January. So you can hear our lovely voices talk about comic books. And I can tell you, we have a really, really cool floppies coming up that will shed some light on some new trajectories, I guess we can say.
I think so. Well, we can definitely say that the new floppies is going to talk about some Grails, right?
There you go.
I think that's
all they needed.
I think there's definitely some Grails going on in the new floppies that's going to be dropping in the near future, and that's the December one. So if you're thinking like 6 weeks without my boys, well, all you got to do is jump over to Patreon over there, find Spec Tales and join $3.99. It's like adding a comic book to your pull list. But if not, you can wait. You can just, I know it's the holidays, everybody's buying gifts. That is something that you could certainly, if you were like, what do I get the boys for the holidays? Just join Patreon. That's something you can give to us. If you want to give us a gift, that'd be pretty cool. We'd certainly appreciate it. It does help support the show so that we can continue to do more episodes like this and more episodes like Floppies. That said, that's the only pitch we got. That is the end of 2023. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will be back again next year. And that doesn't mean that we are not going to be present on social media. So if you want to talk to us, just reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to hear what Grails you guys are getting for Christmas. So reach out to us. Let us know. Until then, Happy New Year.